I'm going to stay in my safe zone, if that's all right with you. So some of you that may be on the prayer chain list may have known that Elizabeth had an incident with Raylan, our 3-year-old granddaughter, last week. On Saturday morning, she called me and showed me Raylan's abdomen. It was very, very large, red bullseye, raised, and to me it looked like either a tick or a spider bite. I told her she needed to take her in right away, and on further investigation, the inside of her belly button was completely worn raw, and there was a black piece of something in her belly button. She went to the ER and was sent home with antibiotics. On Sunday morning, Raylan had a low-grade fever that she didn't have before. On Monday morning, she had a fever over 101 and was lethargic. Elizabeth told me she was going to call the pediatrician at 8 o'clock, and I said no. I said, you need to take her to the ER, and she needs to go now, right now. She took her to the ER. They did labs, and she showed an infection in her bloodstream. They did a CT scan following that showed a bleed in her brain. Elizabeth was told that Raylan had Lyme meningitis and that they needed to do an MRI and admit her to the hospital. I called and started our prayer chain. I called Elizabeth's minister and started their prayer chain. We prayed over Raylan as they were waiting to get things together. They were going to do a spinal tap, which involves putting a needle in her back and drawing fluid from her spinal column. I said, Elizabeth, ask them if they will put her out for that, because she's 3. That can be a very dangerous procedure, and I know the strength of my granddaughter. They said no. They then decided they were going to do an MRI and that they would do the spinal tap while she was out for the MRI. So we continued to pray, and they admitted her. She was then sleeping calmly. The results came back from the MRI that they could find no bleeding in her brain. They redid her labs, and her white blood cell count, which shows the infection in your system, had returned to normal. She slept for a good part of the day, woke up and wanted something to eat. They kept her overnight and sent her home completely healed in the morning. Elizabeth took her to her follow-up appointment to the pediatrician on Friday. And she said, well, she seems to be doing fine. And Elizabeth said, yep, she's 100%. And the pediatrician said, well, I'm going to go check a couple things. This might take me a little while. She goes, is that okay? And Elizabeth's like, yep, we're fine. She came back 10, 15 minutes later, and she said, I reviewed the CT scan and the MRI, and I don't know how to tell you, but it did show a brain bleed in her brain, the CT, but the MRI is completely clear. Elizabeth said, I know. She said, I know what happened. My God saved her. She said, I don't know what your belief is, doctor. She said, but I know what happened. And she said, well, I believe you, Elizabeth. We were granted quite a miracle this last week. And if you thought I was a crazy Jesus lady before, Raylan has come back to being our little 3-year-old granddaughter. But Matthew 21:20 will now be my verse.